Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey.
So we have guests in the studio. Why am I saying the studio? So we have guests here with us
because we are normally in the studio.
My job is just, and we're on Zoom, and you'll be able to see us on YouTube. You'll be able to see the video online. We have two guests in with us, and LaShawn, Jerry, and I are just our normal hey girl, hey selves. And so we're just acting goofy and quirky, and we're making hand gestures and cracking jokes. And LaDina and Muffy just sitting there like,
they like, I don't know about this.
I have notes. I have notes.
I'm just ready to get this interview over.
Well, wait a minute. Muffy has her hand on her face like, oh my.
She done sipped her tea I don't know how many times. Anyway, welcome to the show, ladies. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for agreeing to join us today. Yeah. So LaDina and I know each other, but you and LaShawn, do y'all hear this?
We know each other. Not like that.
Do y'all hear?
Yes.
My dog toy.
Can you? Okay. Well, take the toy out of his mouth. Shoot.
No, I'm sorry, LaDina. If I take one, he's gonna go in the room and grab another one, and I'll take that one. He's gonna go in the room and grab another one. I've been
knowing LaDina for how? Well, actually, LaDina is the mother of my children. I told her to go ahead and have the kids. I love her kids. So I adopted her kids. I said, you can go ahead and have them, child.
So would you say you're her baby mama?
Yeah.
Of one. She accepts the rest, but it's just one.
Okay.
Just one, the first one. Those boys, I'm like, you can keep those boys. But her first one, her daughter. I got to tell you the story about when her daughter was a baby. How old is she now?
She'll be 25.
Yeah, because I'm probably like 28. But anyway, when she was little, I had her daughter all day, right? Went over to LaDina's house, went and got her. And this baby smiled and grinned at everybody.
Oh.
And I'm taking her home, and LaDina's dad has said to me, so she didn't eat much because there was only like a little bit of, her food was still there. I had her all day and didn't even feed her. She didn't even cry. She was like,
yeah, baby.
That girl, no wonder she's my, can you see why she's my favorite?
The guilt.
Because you don't want her to sue you. That's what it is.
When I brought her home, her dad was like, she didn't even touch the bottle. What, do you have bottles at your house? And I was like, oh, yeah. They do eat, don't
wow.
they? All day.
All day.
Took her around to everybody because I love her little cheeks. Took her around and had visiting people. And they were like, oh, she's so cute. They're picking her up in there. She's smiling at them, everything. She never cried for a bottle or nothing.
Note
She's my favorite. She's my favorite.
Cannot watch any babies. Got it.
No,
that's right.
Muffy and I have known each other. We've known each other how long? Because we worked together, sort of, kind of, and we've known each other for a while. And then I left. Say it again.
I said I was an intern. You was working. I was just watching.
at Whammo, at the original Whammo, and I came back and from living in Baltimore, and Muffy reached out to me and asked me to host one of her Brown Mama Monologues, and since then I've been just in awe of everything that she's done, just connecting Brown Mamas together and collectively putting their stories together. That's an inspiration to so many who may have gone through the same traumatic experiences or might and don't even know it. You know what I mean? So we'll get into that. But first we're going to talk to LaDina. Explain your book, Killing Grace, A Rise to Restoration. So what's the book about and who is it for?
The book is about my personal experience and a couple of people that I know who wanted to contribute to the book about just going through the process of having abortion and the emotional effects it takes on us. And I was just talking to my husband about that because he was kind of prepping me. But my book is for anyone, and it's male or female. I just want people to read it to understand that, like you said, people go through things. You just don't know they go through things. And then once you realize that, you're like, that weight is lifted. So I want the weight to be lifted off the shame that may come with it, because it's so taboo to talk about. Nobody talks about it. And I talk about it from a spiritual perspective, because a lot of people and women in the church have had them, just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about. And knowing that even as men, you know, I'm not a man, but knowing that you have a responsibility as well to bring some insight, some input, and they probably are affected by it, but they're not saying anything.
They're not expressing it.
No.
Right.
Yeah. So you mentioned shame along with guilt and neglect is something that you mentioned in your book. Why are those titles automatically received by mothers if they're making a decision to terminate a pregnancy, knowing that it could be something that's probably going to save your life, something that you're just not prepared for? I don't know if you can answer the question, but you mentioned shame, guilt, and neglect. Why those?
Well, so I can only speak from my experience, and which has spiritual connotations to it, is just that if you're growing up in the church and you've always been told to wait till marriage and do things like that, and you decide, hey, you know what, this one time, and then you do get pregnant, there's a lot of talk. If you hear what is said about other women who have had children, you might deal with the thing of not being accepted. You know, one of my friends has talked about, you know, being sat down, or how they talk about you behind your back, you know, or just the looks that you give. They talk more about what the decision that you made to have sex, but they're not really talking about, well, how did you get here and how can we help you and work through that process? And so for females, we are nurturers. We're probably a little more emotional than our male counterparts. So, you know, when you hear things like that, not unless you grew up in a tough household, you're going to internalize a lot of that. And I feel like some of those things that I internalized. And so it was looked at as shame and the guilt of doing it. One, because you're killing something. And, you know, if you're growing up in the church, 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I'm going to hell for this, you know. But at the end of the day, somebody has done something to violate one of those 10 Commandments, and where is the grace?
Right.
Anyone
So
else?
I get that. I read your book, and you know, when I first, we've been friends for a long time, and so whenever you first brought the book out, I purposely didn't read it because there were some issues and things I had to deal with myself when it came to that. I had to deal with on different levels, on a judgment level, on feeling guilty level, on different things, especially as being a Christian. Because when you're in the church, everyone tells you, you know, that's wrong, that's a sin, but nobody wants to talk to you about the forgiveness of it.
Right.
And that we all do sin.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's such, and for women in the church, we got sat down from positions, everything, but there was a young man or a boy that was with us who still goes along and lives his life. So, you know, but whenever I read your book and I looked at it, I said, oh, it's not really about the whole thing with the abortion, although that's a big part of it, but it was more of a redemption. And, you know, how although this happened, you're still forgiven. God still loves you. People sin on a daily. Everybody wants to go for that one sin. But if you eat too much, if you're a glutton, if you're looking at someone, there's so many things that causes sin. There's no big and there's no small, but there's always forgiveness. So I got that from reading your book.
Okay. So I'm glad.
You mentioned abortion. That's the main subject for the
Right.
book. I would say character. Was it hard for you to, because it's such a, I don't want to use the word gloomy, but it's such a hard and heavy subject. It's such a vulnerable subject. How did you prepare yourself to speak on that subject and to share your personal story? You mentioned your husband, but what was it that made you say, okay, I got to do this?
So prior to writing this book, the way my story came out in church or around church folk was that I went with someone from my church. There was a group of us and we had a mind group. We mind, but then we talked to the youth that were at Schumann Center. And so when I was talking about the redemptive part of it and being restored, it was to say that just because you're sitting here doesn't mean that we haven't done anything to displease God. You know, I said, I mean, in technical terms, I'm a murderer. I was like, but God still forgives me.
Right.
He still has a purpose for my life. And when I spoke that to them and how they received it in positive ways, it encouraged me. However, the flip side of that was some people didn't really accept that, you know, as far as parents, because I hadn't told my parents at all. So that's the way they found out. But it freed me. So when it came time for me to write my book, I had a lot of other people who encouraged me. So like there are flowers in there. So each flower represents one of the people that I know personally who has gone through this experience. And then having my book coach actually walk me through that. So there were I just had a village of people who inspired me and encouraged me to write. So I was thinking, oh, it'll be longer. No, I was like, it's going to be what it's going to be. So that's it.
Muffy, her story is similar to the women who perform at your Brown Mama's Monologues. A lot of decisions that women had to make to decide to have a family, start a family, rather start a family by themselves, through rape, through, you know, stories of abortion, stories of, I mean, it's so much. Is this the platform that you started, the Brown Mamas crusade? You know, stories like this, or it started with your own? Like, let's get a backstory on that.
Yeah, definitely. LaDina's story definitely hit. I didn't even know that's what your book was about. So first, I just want to say that takes a lot of courage that I'm very familiar with firsthand, because I actually performed in my show last year, and my performance was about having a fourth trimester abortion. And so I know that experience very intimately. And it's a very difficult decision to make. I had my abortion. We are in 2020, so that was, my son is 18. That was about 16 years ago, and it took all 14 of more years for me to get to a point where I could even talk about it in public and actually heal from it. And it took it was about 8 months before I actually did my monologue, before I was completely healed to the point where anybody can come to me and talk about it now. And I'm just like, well, that's in my past. I forgave myself. God been forgave me. Like, I'm moving on from this.
Yeah.
Right.
Is, you know, the Brown Mama Monologues is specifically for that purpose. It's for moms who have a testimony, moms who have healed from a situation and now they are ready to tell their story. And I think it's cathartic to tell a story, whether it's in a book or on a stage, because it is basically putting the world on notice that this problem is no longer a problem for me. It is now something that I can share with people so that they can learn life lessons. It is now something that I can use as a landing board to grow from. And so I just, you know, whenever I hear moms telling their stories transparently, it does something to me, because it says that as a race of women, specifically Black women, we are taking leaps forward. Because anytime you can tell people about something you've done that you feel like at some point in your life was shameful, or was something that you did that you had to hide from, and then you can get up in front of people or deliver people a book that says, I don't have this problem anymore, you know, that is just, to me, that's just the dopest thing that a woman can do, to not necessarily prove her womanliness, but just to say, hey, you know, I'm a woman, I'm flawed, but that doesn't make me any less perfect than the day I was born. So that's definitely, we share that similarity, LaDina, because that's definitely where I'm coming from with my book and with the showcase.
Ladies, did you have a question?
I had one as she was talking about the abortion and things like that. It went away. So if it comes back, I'll say something. But it has nothing to do with that. It went right away.
For those who do not have children, rather it's by nature or by choice, do they, you know, can they still follow the same advice of nurture? You know, LaShawn talked about just how much she loves your daughter and how nurturing she was. Well, not all the way because she forgot to feed her. How nurturing she was. The blueprint and the guidelines that you provide in your book would you recommend it for those who don't have children? It sounds like a stupid question, but people who say, well, I don't have kids, so this doesn't apply to me. You still have some type of nurture.
That's really a good question, because I'm interested in the book, so I don't have children. I never experienced getting pregnant or, you know, having an abortion or anything like that, but I still want to know the story, like the backstory of it. So, would it be beneficial for me as well?
Definitely. Actually, if you go on Amazon and look for the Brown Mama Mindset book, one of the first reviews actually says that. She was like, I don't think you need to be a mom to read this book. This is a book that every Black woman should read. Because the Brown Mama Mindset is really not a book that is specifically about motherhood or mothering. The book is really about adopting a mindset of understanding that you are growing every day through obstacle. That obstacle is the primary means of growth. And also understanding that motherhood is a course. Motherhood is not just about raising kids. It's really about, any woman who has children will tell you that the moment you have a kid, not only does your biology change, but your psychology changes.
Yes, it does.
Psychology changes, your emotions change, the way you look at life spiritually and intellectually completely changes. It's like I use the analogy in the book. It's like you're at the starting line, about to run the 50-yard dash, and somebody shoots that gun. Everything changes in an instant. You go from being still to being mobile. And that is what motherhood does to a woman. And so you can use that same analogy, whether you're talking about starting your first day of college, whether you're talking about getting married, whether you're talking about having had an abortion and not having children. You can use that same analogy. It's about allowing the obstacles in your life to transform you and giving you a set of principles that you can use along that journey to kind of make sure that you are always in that progressive movement. So that's really what the Brown Mama Mindset is about. It's about giving you 15 solid, practical principles that you can use throughout every step of your life to say, where am I moving? And is the direction I'm moving in moving towards the real me, or is it moving away from the real me? Because I was actually, today I started recording the audiobook format for the Brown Mama Mindset. And one of the things that really resonated with me, again, when I read the book, because most of the principles are not principles I've mastered, they're principles I've learned and I'm trying to master. But one of the things that really resonated with me today when I was reading it back was just that constant check-in that you need to do to figure out if the experiences that you are currently having are really real for you. Are you doing this to prove to something to someone? Are you doing it so that you can make yourself look in a certain light? Is what you're doing really in alignment with the person that you see yourself becoming? So that's really what the Brown Mama Mindset is. It's about developing a mindset that is constantly working towards wholeness for you, not working towards, fulfilling other people's needs, not working towards doing things because you feel like this is what your kids need. None of that. It's about figuring out where's your center? Where are you centered at as a woman? And then deciding on a set of guidelines to help you stay in that place.
I'm glad you said that, because reading some of your book, I did notice it wasn't just about for motherhood. It was just becoming the best you that you can be. So I thought that was good. And so there's one thing that you said, it was you use manifesting your life's purpose, which is very important to me. And because I sometimes I'm hesitant about reading things that they say that it's for mothers, because some people think since you don't have children like myself, that you wouldn't understand how it feels to be a mother. And I definitely disagree with that, because there are children in my life that are so important to me as if I birthed them, that I would go through anything for them.
Right.
Anything. So but I've had, plenty of people that have children, they'll tell me, you don't understand because you don't have a kid. And I want to say, you don't understand because you don't have a brain.
Right.
That is
You're
not
still a woman at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So the heart that you care. It doesn't mean that when you become a mother that, and Muffy, you are absolutely right. You become mobile, and like your psyche does change. Your and I think this may be what people are not explaining when they say that. When you become a mother, I don't know what it is with your thinking, but your thinking is like, you will, I can't even explain it. Like there's just things that it's just, say it again.
One of the things I like to explain to people about becoming a mother is that it is a cosmic shift. You become a world to a person. A person is ruminating in your womb, and you are its world. There is nothing else. It is influenced by nothing else. When it looks at the stars and moon, it sees your womb. There's nothing else. There's nothing. The experience is it's an essence from within you that changes, because one of the things that Diamante says in the foreword of the book is, she says, my love for my children is the very marrow of my bones. The flesh of my flesh. It's everything. So when this thing, I remember the day I had my son. I don't even think the whole time I was pregnant, I really grasped what was happening until he came out, and I was like, oh shit, this is a person.
Yeah. Like he's here.
That came out of me that I think I put there, but I'm not so sure I had a whole role in putting that there. So I think it's just, there is a shift that happens in the mind of a woman that when she gives birth, but there's also other ways to birth and manifest in your life.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely.
Ways to
definitely.
Listen, I was talking to one of my girlfriends on the phone this morning, and I was like, Brown Mamas for me has been birthing a child. There are weeks upon weeks where I've gotten up and I've thought about nothing except this. And that is, I've thought about it before my kids. I've thought about it before my husband. I've thought about it before my own well-being, because I was birthing something. So I will never take that from another woman. Birthing is birthing.
Right.
And but I think regardless of what you're birthing, regardless of whether it's a vision, a child, a thing, a being, you have to know who you want to become through this experience. And that is the reason why I will say sometimes some people ain't meant to have kids, because that person birthed the child and they in no way stay centered to what their mission should have been. They life is worse than they had. You know what I'm saying? So no matter what you are birthing, you need guiding principles. You need that. You need things and ways of being in your life that keep you focused and centered on what the mission is. And really, at the end of the mission day, you are the mission. You are always the mission. The woman in and of herself is always the mission. So sometimes we think about kids as in, my kids need me to raise them. And I always like to tell moms, now you need to rephrase that. You need to raise your kids. Your kids are growing you up. Your kids are teaching you lessons. Your kids are giving you principles to guide you. If you listen, if you pay attention, if you're not such an authoritative figure in their life that you can allow them to have some sway in terms of influencing your way of being. Because that's the reason why they're here. They chose you. You didn't choose them. Decided they wanted to come into your womb. They said that is the place where I am going to manifest my best self. So I'm going to go there. And when they get here and we don't stay centered in understanding that we are the mission, that's when things start to go awry. That's when moms start to beat themselves up over the things that they couldn't or shouldn't or wouldn't do. That's when moms start to feel like I can't take care of myself because I got to take care of everybody else. Because you're not realizing that unless you're well, that child is not going to have a chance in hell if you ain't well. And that's really what the Brown Mama mindset is about. That's what the whole Brown Mama movement is about. It's about recognizing that you are on a divine journey as a woman. And your journey is all about you, not nobody else. It's about you.
But I think people get so, when they become moms or they have a family, everything becomes centered around the family and everyone forgets about themselves.
Yeah.
And that is such a difficult thing to transition from, thinking about your husband and your children to just doing you.
Right.
And especially if you're a family oriented person, because it takes me a while to sometimes think about myself, because my family will tell you I'm the one that makes the telephone calls. I'm the one that do the arrangements. And I remember a friend of mine that we were dating, and he said to me, "Stop, they're going to be fine." And I thought, you're so selfish to think about yourself. And he was like, "You're so selfish to think about everything revolves around you." And he was like, "Take time and just do something for yourself." And I was like,
Yeah, I just had a friend say that to me. And I think there has to be a balance in life. I think that's how we get so bitter in our lives and what we think is, the regrets, the guilt, the shame comes up because there are things that we wish we would have done and we didn't do it, but not knowing that we can still do those things, no matter the age. I'm seeing 98-year-olds lifting weights and things like that. Like, okay, so why is my big behind sitting in this chair eating snacks? like Muffy said, I mean, you really have to be focused. Like when I had my kids, I graduated with my bachelor's with 2.1 kid, 2.5 kids. So I was pregnant at the time, when I graduated. It took me 7 years to do that. But it was an accomplishment for me because I knew that that's what I wanted,
and it got done.
Right.
And it got done.
Right. And then when you move on to that next task, it's just saying, look, I have to get this done. Even though you have a whole family or whatever your responsibilities are, is how can I balance my life to get my goal done and still be able to have time for everyone else?
We're at the 2-minute mark. I wish we had more time. Oh my gosh, we got to do this again. And we say this every time. All the dang on podcasts are good.
Every single time.
If you're at the supermarket and you're listening to this podcast, as I was last week when we had Candy on, and I was like laughing, and I was like, "Oh, that's good." And people looking at me like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And I was like, "It's okay. It's the Hey Girl Hey podcast." So that's what you do. Tell your neighbor that you listen to the Hey Girl Hey podcast. So, LaDina and Muffy, LaDina, real quick, how can we get in touch with you? How can we find your book? Is there a Facebook page, email address? Muffy, after she's finished, you give your handle as well.
My book is on Amazon, Killing Grace, Arise to Restoration. I am on Facebook. I am on Twitter. And I am on Instagram. Instagram and Twitter is Victorious Faith, VICTORYOUS.
Got it. And Muffy?
You can
Is that it? Did you have more?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I had to spell out victorious.
You are victorious. That the U is in the middle.
Got it.
You can find the Brown Mama Mindset on Amazon, but I would prefer that you buy it on brownmamas.com. That's BROWNMAMAS.com. You can also find me there. Just look on the Meet Muffy tab. And of course, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
This is
thanks.
Jerry's time. Jerry's time is to tell everybody how to find us. This is her time, so we're gonna have to sit back and wait because
this is my favorite part of the show. I love this part. If you want to catch up on past episodes of the Hey Girl Hey podcast, you can find us on the following platforms: SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Live 365, TuneIn, oh my gosh, UrbanMediaToday.com, and Anchor FM.
LaShawn, do you want to let folks know how they can find us on social media? This is LaShawn's part.
This is the funniest part.
I'm for real. Now on Instagram and Facebook, we can be reached at the Hey Girl Hey podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and then at Hey Girl 2018 on Twitter. And you can email us at the Hey Girl Hey podcast @gmail.com. And if you have any questions about our show or any topics or any ideas about the show, you can call us at 412-709-6130 and leave a message.
After the beat. Ladies, thank you so much. I hope you thought of your chick names, because you got to have a chick name at the end. I am your radio chick, Kiki Brown.
I am the chatter chick, LaShawn Tipton.
Okay, and I'm the millennial chick, Jerry Tipton.
Muffy, you got a chick name?
I'm your mama.
The Brown Mama chick.
The mama chick.
Your mama chick.
The Brown Mama chick.
The Brown Mama chick. LaDina.
Let's see.
Victorious Faith chick.
The Victorious.
Okay.
I like it.
Yeah. I'm so glad
Check us out.
Love it.
Yes.
Every Saturday, 9:30 on Live 365 and tune in. Just search Urban Media Today. Thank you, ladies, for joining us.
Thank you.
It's the Hey Girl Hey podcast on Urban Media Today. Hey.
Holla.